A real mother copes. My husband Daniel said it to me from our front door, 6 days after my doctor cut me open to deliver our first child, duffel bag in his hand, his mother Marlene smiling behind him with hers, both of them leaving me alone for the weekend with a newborn I could not yet lift without crying. Marlene's suitcase was larger than his. She had been packing for a week, smiling. I did not argue. I did not cry. I called nobody. He kissed me on the forehead like a child being put to bed and shut the door. I packed one suitcase that weekend, and the one that left this house was not mine. What Daniel did not know was that the iPad he had bought our daughter to keep her quiet while he was gone was synced to his iCloud. If your chest is already tight, please like and subscribe. Most women never get to tell this part of the story. Drop your city and your local time in the comments. I want to know who's listening tonight. I'm Renata Linfield, 35, a principal architect in Philadelphia. This is the story of the weekend my husband and his mother believed they could rewrite my deed while I was still bleeding on the couch. Let's go back to Wednesday, April 8th, 6 days after Maeve. I was on the couch in our living room with Maeve at my breast and 3 pillows under my hips. The C-section incision was a thin pink line that wept when I leaned forward. My obstetrician had told me the day before to spend the week sitting, drinking water, and asking for help. My sister Adrienne, herself an OB/GYN at Pennsylvania Hospital, had offered to come stay. I had said no because my husband had said he had the week off. Daniel came down the stairs at 7:14 in the morning in jeans and a fleece with the duffel bag I had bought him for our second anniversary slung over one shoulder. He looked at me as if he had something to confess and had decided to call it news instead. "Hey," he said. "So, Mom and I were thinking, the weather is going to be nice this weekend up in the Poconos. We were going to go up Friday after my lesson plan, come back Sunday night. She hasn't been since Dad died." I held Maeve a little tighter. The dishwasher hummed from the kitchen. Maeve had unlatched and was looking up at the ceiling fan. "You and your mother," I said. "Just a couple of nights, you'll be fine. Mom can drop by Saturday morning if you need." "I won't need her," I said, "and I won't be fine. I had surgery 6 days ago." He paused on the landing. "You're being kind of dramatic." "Daniel, a real mother copes, Ren." He smiled the way a teacher smiles at a difficult parent. "Women have been doing this for 1,000,000 years." The doorbell rang. Marlene let herself in with her own key. She had a key, without waiting. She was wearing pale linen and carrying a suitcase the size of my refrigerator. Her hair was freshly cut. She had on lipstick. At 7:18 in the morning on a Wednesday, 3 days before a weekend trip. "Sweetheart," she said to me, not quite looking at me, "don't get up. You look exhausted." Daniel kissed the top of my head. I did not move. The two of them carried the suitcase into the front hallway and set it down by the umbrella stand, where it would sit until Friday afternoon. The bag was larger than the one Daniel was taking. I will tell you why I noticed in a minute. When the door clicked shut behind them, I sat for a long time in the silent house with Maeve on my chest. The dishwasher cycled into its rinse. The ceiling fan turned. Outside, the magnolia tree at the curb was open like a white hand. I bought this house in September of 2017. It is a 4-bedroom brick row house on a quiet block in East Falls, Philadelphia, with a garden in the back and a stained glass transom over the front door that my grandfather Frederick, also an architect, had designed for a different house in 1962, which I had moved here pain by pain the year I closed on the sale. I paid $612,000 for it in cash and trust money. The deed is sole name, R. Linfield. 2 months before my wedding, I sat in my attorney Erica Halverston's office on a Sunday afternoon and signed a separation of property memorandum that said, in plain English, "This house is mine, the mortgage is mine, the taxes are mine, and nothing about my marriage will change that." I paid the mortgage off in November of 2024, free and clear. Daniel had never paid the taxes. Daniel had never paid the insurance. Daniel had never paid the mortgage. Daniel called it our house when guests were over, and Mom's place when he thought I was not in the room. I had heard him do it, more than once. I had also heard Marlene, in my kitchen during last Thanksgiving, point to the load-bearing wall between the dining room and the living room and tell her sister Pearl, "When I move in here, that wall is the first thing going." I had been 4 months pregnant. I had been holding a serving dish of green beans. I had set it down and walked upstairs and told myself I had misheard. I had not misheard. But that morning, with Maeve on my chest and the suitcase by the door, I still believed Marlene's bag was big because she packed too much. I still believed my husband was tired and selfish and weak. I still believed "a real mother copes" was a stupid sentence said by a stupid man and not a sentence he had practiced. I would not understand the size of that suitcase for 3 more days. Friday came slowly. Daniel left at 3:30 in the afternoon. He carried his own duffel out first, then came back for Marlene's suitcase, which he could not lift alone. Marlene was already in the passenger seat of the Subaru with her sunglasses on. She had not come into the house to say goodbye to Maeve. "Text me if you need anything," Daniel said. He kissed my forehead. He did not look at the baby. I shut the door. I locked the deadbolt. I stood in the front hallway listening to the engine pull out of the alley driveway. Maeve, in the bassinet under the stained glass transom, was the loudest thing in the house. By 11 Friday night, I had not eaten since breakfast. By 2 Saturday morning, Maeve's forehead was hot. She was crying a kind of cry I had never heard before, small, hoarse, surprised, and I was holding her against my shoulder and walking the length of the living room in slow circles, because if I stopped moving, she would scream, and if I sat down, my incision pulled. Her temperature was 100.3. The pediatrician's on-call line told me to keep nursing her, watch for 101 or above, and come in if it climbed. I had no one to drive me. Around 3 in the morning, desperate to soothe her without putting her down, I reached for the iPad Daniel had bought for the baby's screen-free area. His exact phrase, which he had said sweetly while ordering it on his account, and turned on a cartoon of a yellow rabbit on a hill. Maeve, eyes still wet, watched the rabbit. I watched the screen above the rabbit. In the top notification bar, a little yellow notes icon was lit up. New activity. I tapped it without thinking, the way you tap your own notifications. The iPad was logged into Daniel's iCloud account. Not Maeve's iPad, Daniel's iPad. The Notes app opened. There was one pinned note at the top. The title was Bramwell House Plan Phases. The most recent edit was 3 days ago, on Tuesday, April 7th, at 11:42 at night. The night before, he had told me about the trip. I sat down on the couch. Maeve was asleep on my chest. The rabbit on the hill was singing a song to nobody. I opened the note. It was 14 months long. The first entry was dated February 2nd, 2025, 2 months after Daniel and I had told Marlene I was pregnant. It was a single line in Marlene's voice that Daniel had copied. "When the baby comes, I will be staying. We need to plan." The entries after that were a conversation. Daniel typed in plain text. Marlene's contributions were marked Mom Arrow in his shorthand. I will not read you all of them. I have read them so many times that my mouth tastes like metal when I try. I will read you the ones that mattered. "Mom, Renata will be overwhelmed. We need to lay the groundwork so she sees it as her choice." Daniel right arrow. "Yes, PPD framing. Mention rest often. Make her feel watched, not pushed." "Mom, if she insists on staying with the baby, suggest the Trust Cottage in Lower Gwynedd. Quiet, smaller, better for her recovery." Daniel right arrow. "She loves that cottage. She inherited it. She'll say yes if she's tired enough." "Mom, I take the guest room week 1. By week 4, I move into the primary. Daniel and I share parenting overnight." Daniel. "If she calls a contractor in May, still resisting, I'll just tell her she okayed it during the haze." "Mom, remodel kitchen by June. Knock out the dining wall. My yoga studio off the south-facing window." Daniel right arrow already measured. The final entry was dated April 4th, 2 days after I had given birth. "Daniel, sightseeing weekend. Realtor at 12 Saturday, tile showroom at 2. Push out by June if she's pliable. August if she pushes back." "Mom, she's bleeding on the couch. She'll be pliable." I sat with the iPad in my lap and Maeve on my chest and read that sentence 3 times. I did not cry. I did not scream. I did not call Daniel. I did not throw the iPad. What I felt was very simple and very cold. The way a room feels when you walk into it and realize someone has already been there, sitting in your chair, reading your book. I felt seen. And not in the way I had felt seen for the last 14 months, gently, lovingly by my husband who brought me ginger tea, but in the way a building feels seen by a wrecking crew. I took a screenshot of every entry. I airdropped them to my own phone. I logged the iPad out of his cloud. I logged it into Maeve's eventual account and reset the wallpaper to the yellow rabbit. I put the iPad back where Daniel had left it on the coffee table, screen down, exactly the angle he had left it. Then I called my sister. If you have ever had a husband tell you that you were too tired to think clearly while he was the one writing notes about how to push you out of your own house, please comment below. Tell me the city. Tell me the year. I need every woman watching this to know she is not the only one. It was 3:46 in the morning. Adrienne picked up on the second ring. I told her 2 sentences. She said, "I'm on my way. Don't unlock anything. Don't text him. Don't move the iPad." She was at my door in 23 minutes with a black leather bag in one hand and her own overnight bag in the other. She had also brought a laptop. Adrienne is 2 years younger than me. She wears her hair in a low knot and her glasses high on her nose, and she has the bedside manner of a woman who has told mothers their babies have died and held their hands while it sank in. She is the only person in my family who knows how to walk into a room without breathing through her mouth. She set her bag down in the hallway, hung up her coat, washed her hands in the kitchen sink for 60 seconds, habit, and then walked over to where I was sitting with Maeve and asked to see the incision before anything else. "You're not bleeding through," she said. "Good. Sit. Stay sitting." I sat. She unwrapped a bottle of electrolyte powder she had brought, mixed it in water, and put the cup in my hand. Maeve was asleep in the bassinet. The rabbit was still on the iPad. Adrienne sat on the arm of the couch. She looked at me. Then she said the thing I was not expecting. "Where's the camera?" "What camera?" "The one I put in the playroom while you were in recovery." I stared at her. "Ren," she said softly, "I installed a Safe View 4K under the bookshelf the morning after Maeve was born. I told you it was a baby monitor. I was lying. It's a wide angle. It covers the playroom, the hallway, the living room, and half the kitchen. It uploads to the cloud. It saves for 7 days." I think I said, "Why?" "Because Marlene came to the hospital the morning Maeve was born," Adrienne said, "and asked the charge nurse how long the maximum stay would be. For you, not the baby, because she asked it twice. Because the second time she asked, she was already smiling. I have been a doctor for 7 years, Ren. I know that smile. I have seen mothers wear it in the chairs outside delivery rooms when nobody loved the woman pushing." She opened the laptop. She logged into the Safe View portal. There were 7 days of footage queued. She opened Tuesday afternoon, the afternoon Daniel had been at school. Marlene was in my living room. She walked the perimeter of the dining room with one hand trailing the wall. She stopped at the load-bearing wall, the one she had pointed to at Thanksgiving, and laid her palm flat against it. She closed her eyes. She smiled. Then she turned and called over her shoulder in a voice loud enough for the wide angle to pick up. "Danny, when we get her out of here, I want this wall gone, yoga studio with morning light. The whole south side opens up." A door closed off-screen. Daniel walked into frame. He was wearing his school lanyard. He kissed his mother on the temple. He said, "Send me the contractor's number. I'll set it up under your account." He had been at work. Adrienne paused the footage. The frame held them. Marlene's hand on my wall, Daniel's hand on her shoulder, my living room. Their plan. "There is more," Adrienne said. "I have not let myself watch all of it yet. I wanted you with me." I watched. We watched it together with the volume low and Maeve breathing in her bassinet 6 feet away. Marlene in my bedroom on Thursday morning, opening my closet, holding up one of my dresses against herself in the full-length mirror. Marlene in the second bathroom with a tape measure. Marlene at my kitchen island on a phone call saying, clearly to someone, "It'll be a fall move-in. We're keeping it tight." Daniel knew. Daniel had filmed her tape measure footage himself. Daniel had been holding her phone. When the last clip ended, the screen went black. The two of us sat in the lamplight. Adrienne closed the laptop very slowly. She did not say, "I'm sorry." She did not say, "I told you so." She did not say anything that a therapist would have written down. She said, "Show me the front door key." I held up mine. "That's not the question," she said. "How many other ones are out there?" I had not thought about it. I stood up, slowly, holding the couch arm, and walked to the small key cabinet beside the front door. There were 3 brass hooks. There should have been 1 key on each, plus my keychain in my purse. That was 2 front door keys and the spare in the bowl in the kitchen. There were only 2 keys on the hooks. One was missing. Adrienne looked at the empty hook. Then she looked at me. "We're going to count again in the morning," she said. "And then we're going to call a locksmith. And then we're going to call a very specific notary. But for tonight, you are going to sleep on this couch with me and Maeve and a kitchen knife on the side table, and nobody is going to walk in this house without me hearing it." I slept for 40 minutes. It was the deepest 40 minutes of my life. Saturday morning was the kind of morning that does not feel like morning when you have not slept. Adrienne made oatmeal. She put it in front of me. She watched me eat it. She changed Maeve's diaper with the practiced single-arm sweep of a doctor who had done it 1,000 times for other women's children before she had ever held her own niece. At 8:15, we counted keys again. 2 on the cabinet, 1 in my purse, 1 in the kitchen bowl. That was 4. My system said there should be 5. The spare was missing. We walked the house. We checked the silver tray on the entry console where Daniel sometimes dropped change. We checked his jacket pockets in the hall closet. We checked his sock drawer. We checked the basement workshop. We checked, finally, the inside pocket of his old college backpack on the hook in the mudroom, the bag he had not used since 2019. A small key, brass, engraved with my locksmith's mark, sitting in the inside zipper pouch beside an old protein bar wrapper. A copy. I held it in my palm. It was warm from the heat of the bag in the sun. "He had it cut while you were in the hospital," Adrienne said. "He could not give Marlene the original, so he gave her a copy of the original." "How do you know that?" "Because the cut marks on this one are not the cut marks on yours. Look." She held both keys up under the kitchen window. The notches were close. They were not the same depth. A backroom copy from a hardware store. Made-off pattern, the way you make a copy when you don't want a record. Adrienne put both keys in a Ziploc bag and labeled them with a Sharpie. Day, time, location. She slid the bag into the front pocket of her overnight kit. At 10:11 in the morning, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. She looked at me. She said, "Vincent Pellegrino." I knew the name. I had not heard it in 2.5 years. Vincent had been a paralegal at a small immigration firm in Manayunk. In the summer of 2023, his employer, a senior partner with a history of doing it to staff, had fired him for raising a billing fraud question in a junior associate review. The associate had retaliated. The partner had backed her. Vincent had been escorted out of the office by security and had no severance and no reference and a mortgage and a wife with stage 2 breast cancer and 3 months to go on her chemo. He had walked into our firm, Halverston and Reeve does not do employment law, by mistake, looking for a different office in the same building. Erica was at lunch. The intake assistant had sent him to me because I was the only partner in. I had spent 2 hours with him that afternoon, called a friend at Spear and Carroll who handled employment retaliation, and got him a pro bono attorney within a week. He had eventually settled with his old firm for enough money to keep his house and finish his wife's chemo, and he had retrained as a notary public because the lawyering world had broken him in a way he did not want to keep being inside. I had heard from him exactly once after that, a handwritten thank you card the following Christmas, a picture of him and his wife, Lena in remission, with hair beginning to grow back, at a Christmas tree farm. Adrienne put the call on speaker. "Adrienne, hi, it's Vincent, Lena's husband. I called your office last night and they gave me your cell as the emergency contact. I'm so sorry to call this early. I wasn't sure who else to—" "Vincent, slow down. We're here. Renata is with me. You're on speaker." There was a pause. "Renata, he said. "I'm in my office. I have a document in front of me. I need you to listen carefully." "Go ahead." Yesterday afternoon, Friday, at 3:45, a man named Daniel Bramwell, Daniel Bramwell, your husband, came into my office in Manayunk with a quitclaim deed transferring the property at 442 1 Sycamore Lane, East Falls, from Renata Linfield, sole owner, to Renata Linfield and Daniel Bramwell, jointly with rights of survivorship. He had a notarization form. He had a signature card from a 2019 mortgage refinance with your signature on it. He had the deed itself with what he said was your signature in the grantor block. Adrienne's hand was on my wrist. I had not noticed. "It was not your signature, Renata," Vincent said. "I knew the moment I looked at it. The R is yours. The L is not. The downstroke on the L is straight. Yours has a hook. I have your card from Christmas. I have looked at your handwriting for 2 years and a half, thinking of you and Lena every December. I told him my notary log was full and asked him to come back Monday. I called my supervising attorney. I filed an incident report. I have a copy of the deed and the card. I am about to drive to my AG referral contact." "Vincent." "I know. Vincent, you saved my house." "I had to. You saved Lena." Adrienne ended the call. The kitchen was silent. I sat at my island at the seat where I had eaten dinner alone every Thursday night for 6 years, and I read the photographed copy of the forged deed that Vincent had emailed 3 minutes later. The R was mine. The L was almost. The downstroke was straight. My husband had not just been planning to push me out. He had been trying to take my name off my own door while I was bleeding on the couch. Adrienne let me sit for 9 minutes. She timed it. Then she put a hand on the back of my chair and said very gently, "Ren, there is one more thing I have been holding." She brought a folder to the island. It was a thick manila folder. It had been in her overnight bag the whole time. She had not opened it last night because she had wanted me to sleep. "I have been collecting things since the 3rd trimester," she said. "I'm going to tell you about a woman named Haley Westbrook." I had heard the name 3 times in my life. The first was in 2018, 3 weeks after Daniel and I had started dating, when he had mentioned a girlfriend from college who had a breakdown. The second was at our engagement dinner, when Marlene had referred to her, unprompted, as "that poor girl who couldn't handle adulthood." The third was a year later, when a Penn alumni newsletter had crossed Daniel's email and I had glimpsed her name on a list of music therapy graduates. Daniel had closed the email very fast. Adrienne opened the folder. Haley is 37. She lives in Asheville, North Carolina. She is a music therapist at a hospice center. She's been sober for 14 years. She was Daniel's girlfriend from his junior year of college through 6 months after graduation. They lived together for the last 18 of those months in a townhouse Haley owned outright on Locust Street in University City. Haley had inherited the townhouse from her mother. The deed was sole name. I closed my eyes. In the spring of 2011, Adrienne said, Marlene began visiting them on weekends. By summer, she was staying through the week. By August, she had moved her clothes into the guest room. In September, Haley came home from a music therapy conference in Boston and found Marlene's clothes in the primary closet and her own in the guest room. The deed had been put in front of her 3 times that month. She had refused to sign it 3 times. Then what? Then a contractor showed up to measure the kitchen. Then Haley took 18 Ambien with half a bottle of wine. Then Daniel found her. Then she lived. Then her aunt drove her to North Carolina to detox. Then she signed the deed. Adrienne. Marlene moved into the townhouse the next week. I opened my eyes. The yellow rabbit was still on the iPad in the living room. The Notes app was still in my cloud. The forged deed was still on my phone. My sister's hand was on the manila folder, and her face had no expression at all. "How did you find her?" I said. "Penn Alumni Directory. 2 phone calls. She picked up the first time. I emailed her a screenshot of the Notes app at 3 this morning. She called me back at 4. We talked for an hour and 40 minutes. She is willing to make a video statement. She is willing to fly to Philadelphia. She is willing to testify under oath. She has documents." She turned the folder around. Inside, there were court filings, sealed but redacted, from a civil suit Haley had filed against Marlene in 2013 for the recovery of the townhouse and damages. Haley's attorney had been a young man from Spear and Carroll. The case had settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. The settlement had been confidential. The deed had not been reversed. Haley had kept every document. "I want to call her," I said. We did. At 11:23 in the morning on Saturday, in the living room of a house Marlene wanted, I sat on the couch with a yellow rabbit playing soundlessly on the iPad and held Maeve to my chest and watched my sister tilt the laptop screen so a woman in Asheville could see my face. Haley is small, she has gray-streaked hair cut to her chin, she wears no makeup, her voice is soft in the way of women who have made themselves soft on purpose. She looked at me through the camera and she said, before I could speak, "Renata, I am so sorry it took me 15 years. I did not know what to say. I started crying for the first time in 3 days. I should have written it down," she said. "I should have warned someone. I told my therapist. I told my aunt. I told the lawyer. I did not know there would be another one. I thought it was about me. I thought it was about my house. I did not understand that it was about her until I read your sister's screenshots at 3 this morning. You couldn't have known. I could have left a record where she could not erase it. I could have written something publicly. I could have called the Inquirer. I was 22. She breathed in. I was tired. Adrienne, beside me, said, "Haley, would you say what you just said in a video statement we can show at a baptism?" Haley did not pause. "I will say it in front of a judge. I will say it in front of God. I will say it in front of every woman that woman has done this to." She looked into the camera. "Renata, when she comes for you, she'll bring your husband first. She'll arrive smiling. She'll bring a suitcase that is bigger than his. Watch the suitcase. Always watch the suitcase." I looked at my sister. My sister was looking at the front door, where Marlene's suitcase had sat from Wednesday morning until Friday afternoon. It had been bigger than his. It had not been a weekend bag. It had been the rest of her life. By 2 in the afternoon Saturday, Adrienne had taken Maeve into the nursery for a nap, and I was at the dining room table with my phone and my laptop and the manila folder open like a deck of cards. I called Erica Halverston at her house. Erica is 61. She founded Halverston and Reeve in 1993 with 2 other women and a typewriter. She's my managing partner and my godmother, and the woman who, when I was 25 and crying in her office about a junior associate who had cornered me at a holiday party, had said, "Renata, write it down, date it, don't talk about it. We will use it when we need it." I've written down and dated everything ever since. "Ren," she said when she picked up, "how is Maeve?" "Erica, I need 3 things by tomorrow night, and I need them quiet." "Tell me." I told her. I told her about the Notes app. I told her about the nanny cam. I told her about the key in Daniel's college backpack. I told her about Vincent. I told her about Haley. She did not speak until I was done. Then she said, "I'll be at your house at 6 tonight. Bring the deed. Bring the memo from 2021. Bring your driver's license. We are filing a protection from abuse petition for emergency relief on Marlene first thing Monday. We are serving a formal notice of ejectment on Daniel on the same day. We are getting an emergency hearing within 5 business days, and we are going to walk a copy of Vincent's forgery file to the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office on Tuesday morning. Do not move out of that house. Do not let either of them move back in. Do not, under any circumstance, sign anything. Erica." Yes, I want it in front of his family. There was a pause. "At the baptism." "At the baptism." Another pause. "Renata, I will draft it so that you can choose. If you want it done in private, we do it in private and it is cleaner. If you want it done in public, we do it in public and it is louder, and his uncles get to see it, and her parish gets to know, and they cannot rewrite the story to your family afterward. Either way, the order stands. Choose the one that lets you sleep. In public, then I will have an off-duty sergeant from the East Falls station at the back hedge by 12:30 on the 26th. His name is Bryce Tanner. I have worked with him before. He is calm and he is large. He will not interrupt. He will be there for you and for the baby. Thank you. And Renata. Yes. Smile when they come home tomorrow night. Smile a great deal. She hung up. Adrienne, in the doorway with a sleeping Maeve on her shoulder, said, I heard the last part. I know. You can smile that much? I am an architect, I said. I can hold a load. We spent the rest of Saturday building a shared encrypted folder. Adrienne uploaded the nanny cam clips. I uploaded the Notes app screenshots and Vincent's email and the photo of the back-cut key in the Ziploc. Haley uploaded her court filings and a 40-minute video statement she recorded that afternoon from her therapy office in Asheville, in front of a window full of dogwoods. Erica emailed in the draft PFA petition and the ejectment notice and the separation of property memo and the original soul name deed. By 6 p.m, the folder had a label. The label was the address of my house. Adrienne ordered tomato soup and grilled cheese from the diner 3 blocks over and walked to pick it up herself, with Maeve in a sling on her chest, because she did not want me alone in the house even for 15 minutes. I sat at the dining room table and I looked at the load-bearing wall. It was the wall my grandfather had positioned in his sketch from 1962, so that the morning light from the south windows would cross the dining table at the angle a child reading at breakfast would not need to lift her hand to shield her eyes. He had drawn it for a different house. I had moved it here. Marlene wanted it gone for her yoga studio. She had not noticed the light. She had not noticed anything that was in this house, not the transom, not the wall, not the wood floor that was reclaimed from a 1908 school, not the brass kick plate on the front door that said RL, my grandfather's initials and mine. She wanted the address. By 8 p.m, when Daniel and Marlene's Subaru pulled into the alley driveway, the encrypted folder had 31 files in it. Daniel came in first. He had a paper bag of bagels from Lake Wallenpaupack. He kissed my forehead. He asked how Maeve had been. He said the Poconos had been nice, quiet, you know. Marlene came in second. She carried the refrigerator-sized suitcase past me down the hall into the guest room. She set it down. She closed the door behind her. She did not say hello. Then she walked back into my kitchen, opened my refrigerator, and asked me what I had made for dinner. I smiled. I said, I didn't. Adrienne brought soup. There's some left. Marlene tilted her head at the casserole dish on the counter. Then she said, You should take better care of yourself, sweetheart. You look tired. I kept smiling. Monday morning, April 13th. Erica filed the PFA petition under seal. The hearing was scheduled for Friday the 24th, 2 days before the baptism. Vincent walked his forgery file to the AG's office in Harrisburg in person. Haley sent a notarized affidavit. Adrienne moved into the spare bedroom at the end of the hall, the small one off the back stairs, and slept with the door open. I went back to my life. I held Maeve. I nursed her. I sat at the dining table during the day and answered emails from the firm on my laptop. I cooked. I let Marlene into the kitchen. I let Daniel kiss my forehead in the morning before he went to school. I asked about his day in the evening. I told him I was tired, the way a woman 6 days, then 10 days, then 12 days post-surgery is tired. And I let him say, I know, hon. And I let him bring me ginger tea. I poured into the snake plant when he turned his back. I documented everything. Monday afternoon, Marlene took a phone call in my kitchen at 2:14 in the afternoon while I was upstairs nursing Maeve. The nanny cam picked it up. She told someone. I learned later from Erica that it was the contractor. Sunday after the baptism, we'll start demo. The girl will be gone the following weekend at the latest. The girl. Tuesday morning, a man in a blue work shirt rang the doorbell with a clipboard. He told me Mr. Bramwell had scheduled a kitchen measurement for the renovation. I smiled. I asked his company name. I asked who had hired him. I asked when. He told me Mrs. Bramwell, the elder one, had called Friday afternoon. I asked him to come back another day. I said the contractor had not been confirmed with me yet. He left. I emailed Erica a screenshot of his business card. Wednesday evening, Marlene brought 2 cardboard boxes from her car into the guest room. She said they were linens. I did not ask. The nanny cam logged a label on one of the boxes that read, Primary Bedroom, Winter. The boxes were labeled in her handwriting. They had been packed before April 8th. Thursday afternoon, Daniel came home from school at 4:15 and went straight upstairs to the guest room. He spent 11 minutes there with the door closed. The nanny cam in the hallway picked up his voice once. "She has no idea, Mom. None." Adrienne was downstairs with Maeve. She heard it through the floor. She did not look up. That night, after Marlene had gone home to her own house to sleep, she went home Tuesday through Thursday so as not to crowd me. Adrienne and I sat in the kitchen with the lights off. She drank water. I drank ginger tea I had brewed for myself. "Sunday," I said. "Sunday morning, the 19th, before church, both of them at her house. He drives her every Sunday." "Yes." "You're sure?" "Yes." "You're going to do it alone." "You'll be in the nursery with Maeve. I'm going to do the front porch alone." "Okay." "I want her bag on the front porch when she rings the bell at 8:48 that night. I want her key not to work. I want her to feel what it is." Adrienne nodded. She did not say a thing for a long time. Then she said, "Renata, you are the only person I have ever met who can plan revenge without raising her voice." "It's not revenge," I said. "It's eviction. Sunday morning, April 19th, 6 in the morning. Daniel left at 5:40 for Marlene's house. Maeve still asleep, the Subaru's headlights crossing my front window. By 6:15, I was in the guest room. Marlene's open suitcase was on the floor, half repacked, half lived out. 2 cardboard boxes labeled "Primary Bedroom" stood by the closet. Her toiletry bag was on the dresser. Her reading glasses were on the nightstand beside a paperback with a bookmark a third of the way through. I packed everything. I refolded her clothes the way I would fold a guest's. I zipped the suitcase. I carried it, slowly, leaning against the wall with my incision tender but holding, down the stairs, through the front hall, and out onto the porch. I set it under the porch light. Beside it, I placed the 2 cardboard boxes, the toiletry bag, the reading glasses, and her paperback. I set the reading glasses on top of the paperback the way she always left them. Then I called the locksmith. The locksmith, a man named Joel, who had installed the original deadbolts in 2017 and who came to my house at 7 in the morning on a Sunday because I had paid him a premium rate not to ask questions. Replaced all 3 locks on the front door, the back door, and the side gate. He handed me 3 new keys. He looked at the suitcase on the porch. He said, "Want me to leave the old hardware?" I said, "Put it in the box marked Primary Bedroom." He did. He left at 8:26. By 8:48, Marlene rang my doorbell. I packed 1 suitcase that weekend. The one that left this house was not mine. The doorbell rang 4 times. Then Marlene tried her key. I watched her through the peephole. She slid it into the new lock. She turned it. The new lock did not move. She turned it again. She frowned. She pulled the key out and looked at the teeth. She slid it back in. She turned it. Nothing. She tried the deadbolt. Nothing. She tried the doorknob. Nothing. Behind her, Daniel was already coming up the porch steps with 2 grocery bags in his hands. "Mom," he said, "what's—" He looked at the suitcase. He looked at the 2 cardboard boxes. He looked at his mother's reading glasses on her paperback. His face went the color of a wall in February. "Renata!" he called. He banged on the door. "Renata, open the door!" I spoke through the door. I did not open it. I did not raise my voice. "Daniel, open the door, Renata." "No. Renata, that is my mother on the porch. It is 48 degrees out and she is— Renata, open the door. This is not funny. This is—" "Daniel." "What?" "The locks are mine. The deed is mine. Marlene's bag is on the porch. We will speak Sunday at the baptism in front of your family. If you try to enter tonight, the police will see you do it. I have the camera. Adrienne has the laptop. The footage is in the cloud. Good night." "Renata." I walked away from the door. For 31 minutes, Daniel banged. He called my name. He called Adrienne's name. He called his mother Mom 12 times, each one rising. Marlene cried on the porch. She cried loudly, then she cried softly. Then she cried in a way I recognized. Performative quiet just under the threshold a passing neighbor could hear. The motion light came on twice. A neighbor across the street looked out her window. I waved. At 9:18 at night, Daniel called his uncle Errol. Errol arrived in 20 minutes with his pickup truck. Errol loaded Marlene's suitcase and her boxes into the back. Marlene got in the cab. She did not look back at the house. She did not look at Daniel. Daniel stood on the porch in the dark for another 6 minutes, alone, with his back to the door. Then he walked to his car and he drove to his mother's. I sat on the floor in the front hall with my back against the door, and I listened to my own breath until Adrian came down the stairs and sat beside me. Maeve was asleep in her arms. We sat for a long time. The week between Sunday the 19th and Sunday the 26th was the longest week I have ever lived through. Daniel texted me 13 times Monday. Tuesday, it was 27. Wednesday, it was 41. The first 10 were anger. Short, capitalized, the kind of message you send when you still believe the other person owes you a reply. The next 20 were pleading. He missed Maeve. He had not been a good husband. He could see that now. He had let his mother run the house. He would do better. He would go to therapy. He would set boundaries with Marlene if I just opened the door. The next 30 were the kind of love bomb a man learns to send when he has been told as a child that sorry is a tone of voice and not a behavior. He sent me a picture of a sunset over Marlene's neighbor's tree. He sent me a song we had danced to at our wedding. He sent me a list of 14 things he loved about me, typed all in one message, the way a boy in middle school sends a girl who has stopped sitting with him at lunch. The last ones, by Friday, that were threats, about custody, about a psychiatric evaluation, about what the courts will see in a woman who locks her husband out of their home 6 days after surgery. I did not respond to any of them. I saved every screenshot. I forwarded every one to Erica. Erica replied to one with a single sentence. He is building our exhibit list for us. Daniel's family began to call. Uncle Errol, Hunt, who had driven the suitcase off the porch and who, the next morning, claimed he had not, left 2 voicemails calling me ungrateful. Cousin Patrice texted me a paragraph she had clearly typed in a group chat first. Daniel's father's sister, Aunt Lurleen, called Adrian, who had not given Lurleen her number in 15 years, and asked, in the tone of a woman who has decided she has the right, what was wrong with Renata that she would do this to her own husband while he was just trying to be a good son. Marlene's pastor called my office. He left a message with the front desk that he would like to facilitate reconciliation. Erica returned the call. He did not call again. Adrian let everything else go to voicemail. She forwarded all of it to me. I forwarded all of it to Erica. By Wednesday night, Erica had a binder. By Thursday morning, she had ordered a second binder. By Thursday night, she had a tab labeled Communications with Aunt Lurleen that was already half an inch thick. On Friday the 24th, the PFA hearing took place by telephone. Daniel was represented by a lawyer he had hired Tuesday. Marlene was represented by the same lawyer. Erica appeared for me. I did not have to speak. The judge granted a temporary order of protection against Marlene Bramwell with respect to me and to my child, valid until the full evidentiary hearing on May 15th. The judge also acknowledged service of the ejectment notice on Daniel Bramwell and set a hearing for May 20th. The judge noted on the record that the property at 4421 Sycamore Lane was held in sole name by Renata Linfield and that no marital interest had been demonstrated. The judge also asked mildly whether the AG's office had been notified of the alleged forgery. Erica said yes. The judge said, "Good." I hung up the call. Adrian handed me a glass of water. That afternoon, Officer Bryce Tanner stopped by in plain clothes. He was a man in his late 40s with a graying mustache and the slow walk of someone who had never needed to prove anything to anyone. He shook my hand. He asked to see the layout of the garden. He measured the distance from the back hedge to the platform we had set up for the godparents. He told me his squad car would be parked 2 blocks east at noon Sunday with 2 units inside. He told me that if anything happened, he would already be moving. He said, "Mrs. Linfield, doctor." "Ms.," I said, "Ms. Linfield, I'm sorry for what has happened to you. I'm going to be standing 40 feet from you on Sunday. If you ever want to look up from that microphone, I will be there." I shook his hand again. I did not cry. Adrienne walked him out. Saturday morning, I dressed Maeve in the lace christening gown my grandmother had worn in 1937. I dressed myself in the navy linen dress I had bought for my first license review in 2017. I had not slept properly in 17 nights. I had never been more awake. Sunday, April 26th, 2 in the afternoon. The cherry blossom in the back garden was fully open. The dogwood beside it was beginning. The light through the south windows of my living room, the light Marlene had wanted to turn into a yoga studio, was crossing the dining table at the exact angle my grandfather Frederick had drawn in 1962. The white-clothed buffet was set under the maple. The folding chairs were arranged in a loose half-moon around a small wooden platform. The cake said Maeve in pale yellow icing. 41 Bramwells were in my garden. Uncle Errol in a too-tight sport coat. Cousin Patrice with her 3 children, Antler Lean with a wide-brimmed hat, Daniel's father's mother, a thin woman named Estelle, who had not spoken to Marlene in 11 years, had nevertheless come, because Maeve was Estelle's great-granddaughter, and Estelle was 86, and did not believe in skipping baptisms over feuds. Marlene's 2 sisters, Pearl and Doreen, were near the cake. Marlene herself was in a cream-knit suit, with a brooch shaped like a dove, holding a wrapped silver baby rattle. Weeping with what she had told everyone within earshot was joy. Daniel was beside her in a navy suit. He had not made eye contact with me in 11 minutes. Father Aldred from St. Bridget's baptized Maeve at 2:11. He poured water on her forehead 3 times. She did not cry. He said the words. The Bramwells said the words back. Adrienne, in a black dress, stood beside me as godmother. Erica stood at the far edge of the lawn, dressed for court, holding a leather portfolio that was not for show. Officer Tanner was 40 feet from the platform, drinking a paper cup of coffee with the calm of a man who had nowhere else to be. At 2:26, when the formal baptism concluded, Marlene took the microphone. She did not ask. She walked up to it. She spoke for 8 minutes. She spoke about the joy of being a grandmother in this house. She spoke about the new chapter for the Bramwell family in these walls. She gestured at the load-bearing wall, visible through the open French doors from the garden, and said lightly that perhaps this old place would see a few changes now that Maeve was here to fill it. The Bramwells laughed politely. Daniel laughed. I stood. I walked to the platform. I took the microphone from Marlene's hand. She let me. She smiled at the crowd. She thought I was going to thank her. Marlene, I said into the microphone, the Bramwell family in these walls. I said it the way she had said it. The Bramwells laughed again, more softly. They thought it was a tribute. These walls, I said, are not Bramwell walls. I took the deed out of the portfolio Erica had handed me as I walked up. The deed to 442. 1 Sycamore Lane is in the sole name of Renata Linfield. I bought this house in September of 2017 before my marriage. I paid for it in cash and in money my grandfather left me. I have never quitclaimed a single square foot of it to anyone. I have a notarized separation of property memorandum from March of 2021. I have the original deed in my hand. The garden went quiet. Daniel said, Renata, this isn't... Daniel. Adrienne walked up onto the platform with a laptop. She set it on the little podium beside the microphone. She tilted the screen so the front row could see it. She tapped play. Marlene appeared on the screen in my living room in pale linen, patting the load-bearing wall. Danny, when we get her out of here, I want this wall gone. Yoga studio with morning light. The whole south side opens up. A door closed off screen. Daniel walked into the frame. He kissed Marlene on the temple. He said, send me the contractor's number. I'll set it up under your account. The garden made a single sound. It was the sound of 41 people deciding simultaneously that they did not know what they had been told. Antler Lean turned her head to look at Marlene. Estelle, the 86-year-old, took her hand off the back of her chair and let it fall to her side. I read aloud from my phone the 7 Notes app entries that mattered most. I read the line, "Mom, she's bleeding on the couch. She'll be pliable," in the voice an architect uses when she is reading a contractor a measurement they have gotten wrong. I played Haley Westbrook's video statement from minute 22 to minute 26. Haley, in front of her window full of dogwoods, said into the camera, "Marlene Bramwell took my house from me in 2011, the same way she is taking Renata Linfield's now. I am here on this video because Renata's sister found me. I will testify under oath." I did not stop there. I read the line from April 4th, 2 days after my surgery, the line that Marlene had typed back to Daniel about the bleeding on the couch. I read the line about the Truss Cottage. I read the line about June. I read them all flat, no inflection. The voice of a woman reading the closing pages of a contract back to a client who is about to learn the contract has been altered. When I finished, no one moved. Then Estelle, the 86-year-old, said one word from the front row. She said, "Marlene." She said it the way a mother says a child's name when the child has just done something that cannot be taken back. It was the first time in 11 years Estelle had said Marlene's name in public. Marlene lunged. She came up the platform with a small animal sound and reached for the laptop with both hands. Daniel grabbed my wrist as I stepped between her and the screen. My incision pulled, sharp, and I gasped. An officer, Tanner, who had been 40 feet away, was suddenly 6 inches from Daniel's elbow, and Daniel's hand was off my wrist before I understood what had happened. Tanner did not raise his voice. He said, "Sir, step back. Ma'am, step back. The sheriff's deputies are coming up the side path." 2 uniformed sheriffs from East Falls Township came up the side path of my garden carrying paper. The first served Marlene Bramwell a temporary protection from abuse order. The second served Daniel Bramwell a formal notice of ejectment from 4421 Sycamore Lane and a copy of an open file from the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office concerning the matter of a forged quitclaim deed dated April 3, 2026. Marlene sat down on the platform. She did not cry. She stared at her hands. Daniel held the ejectment notice. He read it. He read it again. He looked at his mother. His mother did not look back. Aunt Lurleen stood up and walked to my side. She put her hand on my arm. She said, loud enough that the front row could hear, "Renata, I'm so sorry." Estelle stood up next. She did not walk to me. She walked to Marlene. She stood in front of the platform where Marlene was sitting, and she said, in a voice that was not raised and that everyone in the garden could hear, "You did this once before. I prayed to a God I no longer believe in that you would not do it again. I will not be at your funeral. I will not be at his." She turned to me. She said, "Child, may I hold the baby?" Adrienne, behind me with Maeve, walked Maeve to her great-grandmother. Estelle held her. Estelle's hand on Maeve's back was the only steady thing on the platform. By the time Father Aldred had quietly led the family back into the house, half of the Bramwells were standing on my side of the platform, and Marlene was sitting alone in the cream-knit suit she had picked for the day she was supposed to become the queen of my dining room. The cherry blossoms held. If any part of this story has felt like your own, please, go find the deed. Go find the receipt. Go find the paper that has your name on it and nobody else's. Don't argue with the people who are paid in your silence. You are not dramatic. You are awake. And the people who told you otherwise have always known exactly what they were doing. 6 weeks later, the temporary PFA against Marlene was made permanent at the May 15th hearing. 5 years. She is barred from coming within 500 feet of me, of Maeve, of my house, of my office, of Adrian's hospital, and of St. Bridget's parish. She is barred from contact in any form. The May 20th ejectment hearing went unopposed. Daniel did not appear. His attorney withdrew the previous week. He has moved into Marlene's basement. The Pennsylvania Attorney General's office opened a case file in the matter of the forged quitclaim deed. Vincent Pellegrino has been deposed. The signature card and the deed have been forensically examined. The charge, forgery in the second degree, conspiracy, and attempted theft by deception, is pending. I have been told to expect arraignment by August. The Philadelphia School District suspended Daniel pending the criminal proceeding. His union rep has stopped returning his calls. I have filed for divorce. Erica is handling it. Pennsylvania Equitable Distribution honors my sole name deed and the 2021 separation memorandum. There is nothing for Daniel to take from this house. Haley Westbrook flew up for the PFA hearing. She sat in the gallery in a navy dress. After the order was issued, she came to my house and held Maeve in the garden for 40 minutes. She told Maeve very quietly that her grandmother, who was not coming, was a small woman who had tried to be a wall and had been moved. Then she walked me through every room of the townhouse on Locust Street she had not been allowed to walk through in 15 years. Not the actual one, the one she carried in her head. And named, for each room, what she had loved about it before Marlene had arrived. The kitchen window with the cherry tree, the little fireplace with the green tile, the reading chair her mother had left her by the bay. We stood in my own dining room when she did this, and I understood for the first time that what Marlene had stolen from her was not the building. It was the version of herself who had not yet learned to be afraid of her own front door. Aunt Lurleen and 3 of Daniel's cousins have written to me. They want a relationship with Maeve. I have said yes to 2 of them. Estelle has come to lunch twice. She brings a small pound cake. She holds Maeve. She does not mention her son's name. Adrienne has gone back to her apartment in Center City. She comes for dinner on Sundays. We do not invite anyone else. The load-bearing wall in my dining room is still there. Maeve's playmat is in front of it. The yellow rabbit has been retired in favor of a soft music box that plays nothing in particular. The brass kickplate on the front door still says RL. The new nameplate on the mailbox, I changed it last Tuesday, says R. Linfield. I am still the architect of this house. The only blueprint they will ever read again is the one I draw. Maeve will grow up here. She will learn what her mother's name looks like on a door, and she will know, before anyone teaches her otherwise, that her name on her own door is the first wall no one is allowed to take down.